So the recording is on. So, hey guys, it's Arthur, DNA Realty Group. This is our weekly coaching call. So this week we're going to talk about something specific. It's for sale by owners. Kyle closed a couple this week himself. He talked about it. But really, when we started, me and my brother David, the business in 2009, it was a super big recession, and we didn't know what to do, how to make the business grow. So the way we built our business was expired listings, which we talked about last week. I put the call up. You can go back and watch it. And for sale by owners, those folks that are trying to sell themselves and are just either unsuccessful. Here's the thing we know about for sale by owners. 80 to 90% of them will list and sell with an agent. So the only thing that you want is for you to be that agent. And here you see my brother on the screen. He's the king of for sale by owners. So he's going to tell you about the different mindset for sale by owners and the different script of for sale by owners. Kind of a little how to tackle those specific groups of people, because it's a little bit different than expireds, right? Expired super aggressive. For sale by owners is more nurturing. So go ahead, Dave. Start with mindset. So we just take them through the process in a linear format.
All right, so I think the mindset for sale by owners are frustrating to agents because of the simple fact that they think they know more than you. Most of them don't respect your opinion or your time, right? Unless you could bring them a buyer. That's all they ever say is, do you have a buyer? And everybody goes, yeah, we got hundreds of buyers, right? So unless you have a buyer, unless the conversation's like that, they really don't care, right? They really don't care about agents. They think they could do your job better than you can, right? So I think generally speaking, you got to be patient and you got to be intelligent. And there's two ways to do it, right? One way is to convince people right off the bat that, hey, listen, what do you do for work? And they'll tell you what they do for work. And you tell them, do you think you can do your job better if you did it 100 times or if you did it one time? And obviously they'll be like, if I did it 100 times, and you say, well, I do this 100 times, right? So I can naturally sell your house for more money, negotiate better terms and conditions, and keep the deal together after, and get it done for you. But then there's the other way, which I really love, which has worked better for me long term. And it keeps you sane, right? Because like you try to convert people, but if you follow up with enough people and then all of them fall apart on you, it's going to be a shit show in your mind, right? So what you have to do is you got to be patient. It's like fishing, you know what I mean? You got to be really patient and wait, and you got to find out where the fish are, and you got to find your trophy fish, right? You got to find the good ones. So to find the good ones, you got to fish in some bad spots. It's just a part of the game. And I think you got to be really patient, right? You call them, you see them, you go and you add value to them. If they're doing the first open house, you let them do it. You tell them, I can help you. You can use my signs if you want to use my signs. You can give them marketing tips, right? And the ones that don't sell in the first 2 weeks are going to relist with an agent within 4 weeks, right? All of them sell with an agent at some point or another. I'll say probably like 90% of all for sale by owners, if you go back into your MLS and look them up, ended up being with an agent.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the biggest difference, because I used to love expireds, and what you would love the for sale by owners. I think the biggest difference in for sale by owners and expired is expireds, you could call them, they're frustrated, they're ready to get their home on the market and sold. For sale by owners kind of have to learn that they can't do it. So what it comes down to is sometimes it's really offering help, just like you said, and following up, right? Because a lot of times if you're persistent, and it's only you and one agent calling them in 8 weeks and they're still in the market, it almost becomes a come get me listing. Like I've heard people calling you and they're like, or you called them and you're like, hey, it's Dave. And like, oh, hey, Dave, how are you? And you're like, did you sell your house yet? And they're like, oh, no. And then they just start opening up to you. But they already know who you are when you're calling. And I think that's one of the key distinctions between expired listings and for sale by owners.
Right. Expired listings, I think their agent sucked, right? Couldn't get the job done, and you're the guy or the girl to get it done. for sale by owners, like I went to see one yesterday. Beautiful house, right? Priced accordingly. He's doing an open house. I gave him some marketing tips, right? I left my card. I talked to him. I built rapport. I said, hey, if I could find somebody, I will. If for some reason you don't sell the property yourself, and this is a script, if for some reason you don't sell your property yourself, do you have a close friend or a family member you'd feel obligated to list with? Or would you consider going with an aggressive agent like myself to get the job done, right? If they say there's a certain things you got to find out right away. If they, yeah, go ahead.
No, so that was a great script. Go ahead, finish that story, and then what I wanted to get into is just kind of some of the scripts you use, because I know they're so smooth where you're almost pre-qualifying them as you're talking to them, so you're weeding them out and you're following up with the right ones. But
yeah, you don't. Well, that's what I was getting into now. Anyway, you just want to keep your you got to keep your emotions between the line, right? You don't want to. These guys, they could be like, hey, all realtors suck, and that could be their mindset, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that because, hey, let's face it, right? We think the same thing. There's some realtors that do suck, right? Unfortunately, we're all grouped together, right? And these people don't know the difference between a good realtor and a bad realtor, right? So you call them, hey, this is Dave, DNA Realty Group. I saw you had a house for sale. I wanted to see if I could help you sell it, right? What are they going to say? No, you can't help me sell it. They're going to say, of course you can help me sell it. Do you have buyers? Of course we have buyers. I have hundreds of buyers, right? What are you asking for the property? How did you come up with the price for the property? You ask them like all the preliminary questions, right? And then you say, listen, Mr. For sale by owner, Mrs. For sale by owner, if I brought you a qualified buyer, right, that was willing to pay you the commission that you want, right? I mean, not the commission, if they're willing to buy the house at the price that you want to sell it at, right, like full value, are you willing to pay me a 3% buyer agent commission? What are they going to say? They're going to say, yeah, I'll pay you, dude. But usually what they say is, oh, it's 2% or 2.5% or 1.5%. And any agent that calls in usually will be like, yeah, I'll take that. So I'll be like, hey, I'll take 3%, right? So I'm making a distinction that I'm not just a regular agent, right? We charge more for what we're doing because we do have buyers and things like that. And then you say, hey, when's the open house, right? Can I come by and take a look at it? It's hard to tell people about it. And after you do that, you go by and you look at the house. That's why you can't take all of them on because it's time consuming, right? But you got to go see them face to face. After you see these people face to face, you just basically say, hey, if I find you a buyer, would you take it? And then you just follow up. I mean, it's literally that easy. You just follow up until they break, until they become demotivated. They're going to basically say, hey, I tried on my own. You know what happens to them is buyers come in. They basically are shitty buyers, right? Because that's who looks at for sale by owners. They're trying to get a deal. And eventually the people become so frustrated. And when you follow up, all the agents that don't follow up become frustrated. You're the only one that follows up. 3, 4, 5 calls in, I'm telling you, you're like literally, there's 1 or 2 people, you know? I actually got a good surprise. We have Salah on the line here. And he is.
What's up, man?
How are you, Salah? Well, he just did an interview, and he takes a good amount of for sale by owners. He's a young kid. He took like 20 listings or something like that his first year. And Salah, how do you go about for sale by owner?
Yeah, so my first year, I took 27 in total, and most of them were for sale by owners. And I put a lot of time into for sale by owners, probably more time than I should have, but it worked my first year. It did what it was supposed to do. But every weekend when they had those open houses, I would go to them. I would drop off those little Home Depot open house signs, those ones that cost like 50 cents, and I would give it to them. And just so they could, coming from contribution, that I'm someone they can trust now, and just follow up with them every week. And like you said, they fail. Every week they're failing, and they're getting closer and closer to wanting to list. So me being the one to drop them off stuff, always give them info. When they're going to list, they're going to end up listing with me, inevitably in the end. So it's just, staying on them and giving them their time and attention.
Yep. It's actually really easy. You know what I mean? You just got to be able to, the whole concept of for sale by owners, if we were just to dumb it down, is basically what you want to do is follow up with a lot of people and add value to them. Now, let's face it, some of these guys are going to sell on their own, which sucks, right? You follow up with somebody for so long, they sell on their own. That's okay. Some of them are going to list with another agent, which also sucks. You follow up and they list with another agent. That's okay too. But some of them, you're going to be the agent to list them, which sucks for other people because now you follow up with them, they end up listing with you, and boom, there's a bunch of frustrated agents. Like, how did that person get it and I didn't get it? You followed up. And I think most of the time, it's just like anything. You're talking to people, right? So what you want to do is just be human, right? You want to talk to them and you just say, hey, look, if I could help you sell it, I'll help you sell it. But if the main thing is, if for some reason you don't sell the house on your own, I would like to come by there and just show you what we do to market properties and how we sell properties, and where even after paying a commission, sometimes you could net more money bottom line than you could selling it on your own. And the reason for that is say your house is 500,000. After negotiations, most for sale by owners would probably take 480, where I could have sometimes listed it for 500,000, got you 505, and if that, even after a $20,000 commission, you're getting 485. Bottom line, you're getting more money, right? So that's how you get for sale by owners more money. You get them $2,000, $5,000, $10,000 extra in some cases, because after they negotiate, you got to tell them, like, we negotiate better than you. We keep our deals together, right? 99% of our deals stay together after the contract, right? We do this every day. And that, I think that, like, general mindset of helping people is going to work magic. And then the other part that you would have to figure out is how to follow up with a lot of people that are for sale by owners. You got to be on them every single week. Let them do the first open house, and after that, call them. Call them Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, the beginning of the week when they're the most frustrated, right, before they're gearing up for their next open house. And you just follow up and you say, hey, how is it going? And they'll be like, well, Dave, it fucking sucks. I'll be like, listen, why don't I just come by there and take a look at it, figure out what the price is, and just show you what we could do to sell it for you. I mean, you say it with genuinely like that, people end up, you know, some people end up saying yes, and it's probably like 30 to 40%, you know, so.
And I think, speaking of follow-up, I think one of the key distinctions or the key questions that we used to always use is, do you have a close friend or a family member that you feel obligated to list with? And the beauty in that question is, some people love to talk to you, but if they're going to list with their sister or their brother's a realtor, and you're following up with them for 6 months and they never tell you that ends up being a waste of your time. The other great question was the commission question, because as you mentioned, if they're going to pay you 3%, when you're on the listing appointment, you just have to convince them to pay the other 3% to list it, because they're already committed to the 3% buyer agency fee. And then the last question I'm going to throw in there for free qualifying is, how long are you going to plan to sell it in yourself before exploring some other options? Because we kind of want to know the time frame they're thinking about, right? Because that helps us out. Because some people list in 2 weeks, some people list in 2 months. We want to know where this person's at.
Yeah, and some people are like, I don't care. I don't have any motivation. So you want to get rid of them. And any time that they give you, if they say, oh, I'll list it by springtime, I'll list it in 6 months, I'll list it in 3 months, I'll do this for 2 weeks. So basically the best thing I ever learned is you cut that time in half. So if they say 2 weeks, that basically means 1 week. If they say a month, that basically means 2 weeks. And that means your strategy has to adjust. You might have to follow up right. If somebody's ready to go in 2 weeks and you know that, you think it would make sense to call them in 2 weeks? No, it would make sense to call them once or twice a week, or reach out or make contact. You know what I mean? Because that's the only way to do it, you know?
Right, absolutely. That's at a minimum. And yeah, I think that's the key distinction there too, is like, your motivation has to match their motivation. If the guy's like, I don't care when I sell, and if I never sell, that's okay. He's just testing the market. You don't want to be calling that guy every day. But if a guy's like, I'm going to pick an agent in a week, you better be trying to get an appointment and calling that guy every day.
Like go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
No, that was it.
The listing appointment I went on yesterday, the guy has 3 houses, all in different states. He works for like an airline, and he has to get rid of this one, right? And I go, what happens if you don't get rid of this one? And the guy is like, I have to get rid of it. I don't want to have this house anymore, right? I got my other house already ready to go. That's a motivated person. If I asked that question and the person said, I don't care when I sell it. If I don't sell it, I'll rent it. That's not that hot, right? They don't have any
Right.
motivation, right? They don't have any motivation. So you got to look for people that are motivated to sell the home.
Which is simply just asking what their why is. Like you could phrase that question 100 different ways, but at the end of the day, why are you trying to sell your home? What is the goal that you're trying to accomplish? So if that's
Yep.
testing the market, that the motivation is not there. If they're like, I'm job relocating and I have to be in Texas in 3 weeks or a month or 6 months, then you know they're gonna sell, and they're gonna sell with an agent 90% of the time.
And you got to make sure you don't just accept their answer. You know, if somebody says to you, "Hey, I'll rent it out," and you'll be like, "Well, why are you selling?" You know, and they might not give you the straight up answer up front. You have to build trust, right? They don't trust agents, so you have to dig a little deeper. You don't just take their first answer. Ask a couple more preliminary questions, and then after that, you go and see them. I think when you see them, the game changes, right? Like if
Right.
I'm talking to you guys on the phone, I sound a certain way. If you meet me in person, I can give off certain energies that I can't really give off through the phone, you know? So I think belly to belly is great. And then they hear your voice again. And then you might see that. You might have to see, like some for sale by owners that I listed, some of my best ones. I had to go to that house like 2 or 3 times.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But then I list it and I sell it. And everybody's like, how do you do it? Because most agents aren't willing to, they think it's a waste of time to go to the house a couple of times, which I get it, like it could be, but when you get the listings, you forget, you don't worry about that, right? Because that seller becomes a person that's going to refer you more business. They become a person inside your database, right? Which is what we're really doing it for. They become, like we've had a for sale by owner that I sent my brother to that he listed. We never sold it, but then we did 5 pieces of business. We're actually closing on 2 pieces of business this month or this week or something like that for that particular person that we initially met. And since then, we've had plenty of dinners, plenty of like parties, right? Client get-togethers. And this person's a client of ours and a friend of ours. It started as a for sale by owner. We have countless stories like that, you know?
Yeah.
So you just got to be patient. You can't help them all, but the ones you can help are going to become fans.
Yeah, and I'll finish with a Fsbo story. Then I'll let David and Salah close out, and then we'll ask any questions we have. But one of my favorite Fsbo stories was this guy Simon. My brother knows. Called Simon like 2 or 3 times. Never got the appointment. Finally got the appointment. Went to look at his condo in Chelsea. He didn't list with me. Kept trying for like 3 months. Finally, we listed and sold Simon's house for more than what he's asking for. So he became a believer. He's like, holy shit. I tried to sell my house for 6 months. I couldn't sell it. These guys came in here and they sold it. They didn't just bring the price down, which he thought I was going to do. He thought we were just going to bring the price down and sell it. I'm like, no, we're going to sell it for what you're asking for. It's worth it. We listed it and sold it. Then he's like, hey, by the way, I'm moving to Spain, and I have 3 more houses that I want to sell. So we sold 3 condos for him. He did a flip, so that's a buy and a sell. And then he had a $600,000 or $700,000 house in Charlestown. He's like, I'm going to sell this one myself because the commission is big. Again, he tried to sell it as a for sale by owner. Didn't end up working out. We listed it. We sold it. And then the last condo, we ended up just buying it because he couldn't sell because the condo had association issue. But that's one for sale by owner that led to like 5 pieces of business. So really when you're on the phone and it's a grind and you're making those phone calls, you got to think about what my brother said. It's not about that individual listing. It's about that relationship. Because whether it's the for sale by owner that he told the story of that we never sold our house and she gave us like 5 deals, or it's like Simon who ended up moving to Spain and gave us like over 5 deals. It's really you're calling for those relationships. And sometimes to get to good relationships, you have to go through 100 people telling you no or whatever it may be. So that's my favorite for sale by owner story. I'll let you guys – let's open up to Q&A, and then you guys can wrap up at the end unless you want to say something now.
I don't have anything to say, Salah.
You guys want to? I'll give you guys a quick good story about these investors that I met when they were for sale by owners. And I think this was maybe my second or third listing that I ever got when I was brand new. It was about my third month in the business. I called this for sale by owner in Manchester, and it was this little cape. It was like 235 grand, and they gave me an appointment. And it was a husband and wife who do a lot of flips, and the husband is also a builder. I didn't know this when I got there, but when I did got there, I did my interview. Like I was trying to get the appointment. I mean, I was trying to get the listing, but other agents were there as well. And I ended up not getting that house. But they saw that I was a young guy and they liked like my attitude. They thought I was driven. So it turns out the husband was building a new construction home in Amherst. This is often calling this one for sale by owner. So I didn't get that one in Manchester, but he gave me his new construction in Amherst, which is a $500,000 house. And since then, every month for the last 6 months, I've closed the deal with these people, at least one every month for the last 6 months, because they're so active into real estate. It's all came from one call from a for sale by owner. And that's why it's so worth it. It really is. You never know what that one client will give you, like you said. So, I mean, always go for them. Always.
That's a good one. There's plenty of stories like that. So that's an awesome story, man. I feel like that's incredible, right? It doesn't get any better than that. So, like, we're not, like the great thing is we're not sitting here talking about all the people that hung up on us and didn't want to do business with us, because you let it go. That's how you do this business. You got to let stuff fall off your shoulders as fast as you can. And that's how you keep moving forward and keep prospecting and keep getting stuff done. You got to let stuff go quick. And the quicker you can learn to do that, the better your business is going to be. You can't save everybody. You can't help them all. Your specific thing is not for everybody.
Right. Many more said no than they did say yes, but those who said yes made a huge impact on business for the long run. And I forgot about the ones who said no. The focus has always been grateful to the ones that said yes.
Yep.
Absolutely. Yep. Well, this was a great call. I think for sale by owners can be a huge part of anybody's business, especially those people who don't have a lot of money to spend on other lead generation sources that we talked about before. And it's great for people who don't have a database. Like, say you don't come from means and you don't have a lot of people buying and selling a home. You got to pick up the phone and you got to make those phone calls. So let's open it up. Great call. Let's open it up. See if anybody has any questions for myself, Salah, or David.
Yeah, so I got two questions actually. So my first one is, at what point are you giving too much value to where it's like, all right, I'm not even going to bother? You've given them everything. And then the other question is, do you go to preview or do you go to list when you go into that conversation?
So personally, I do both. I go to preview and I go to list. Depends on the situation, right? So some people I'll be like, I'm coming out there to see if we could help you sell the house. Just depends on where they are in the process. Usually the ones that I'll go to preview are much closer to me, right? If they're further out, like you say like 25 minutes or more driving time to the house, right, which is an hour there and back, right? I could do follow-ups on the road. But if they're, so generally speaking, I do both. If they're closer, I'll stop by and preview. But what I started doing that works for me, as far as previewing or listing, just going straight up to do a listing appointment, is that when you get more appointments, like today, I have an appointment at 10, then I have a bunch of appointments during the day, and then I have two late in the evening that are about like 45 minutes away from where I am currently. And there's another one that's late in the evening that's kind of away from where I am. I put those two together, right? So, like, I'll go see one, and then the other one's like 10 minutes away, right? So you got to start grouping them because you have to be more efficient. And what was the first question?
Value, as far as like you giving them all tips and everything. At what point are you giving too much?
Yeah, so usually my theory is if you don't, depends on their time frame, right? Like if it's 3 months, you got to follow up. Once you run through that time frame, you're pretty much done, right? Because as the time goes on, you just figure out their motivation better and better. And if there's no opportunity for you to list it, you don't want to just keep calling people that aren't going to do any business with you. So it's a constant thing you got to figure out. Go ahead.
I think his question was how much value is too much value. Like if you're offering to sign, you're offering to do an open house, etc. I'm gonna say from the school of thought of like Gary Vaynerchuk and just in general, what you want to do, you really can't give them too much value, right? Because if they're gonna sell it on their own, they're gonna sell it on their own. You're never gonna put it in 900 websites or 1,000 websites for them because that's what happens when you put it through MLS through the power of Keller Williams and KWRI. But you could give them all the general basic value as much as you want because at the end of the day, most people won't do all the work that it takes to sell a house. So the more stuff you give them, Nick, the less likely they are to do it. Now, the two things are going to happen. One is they're going to love you. So even if they end up selling themselves, they're going to refer you to everybody because they're going to be like, this guy basically helped me sell the house. And so that's a no-brainer, right? And two, you're going to overwhelm them and they're going to list with you because they're like, dude, that's too much stuff. I'm never going to do that on my own. So I don't think you could give too much value. You know what I mean? Aside from, obviously, you're not going to list it for them for free. That would be the cutoff.
Awesome.
All right. I think we're right at 9:00. Great call, guys. I'll post this and resurface it so you can listen to it again. Let's keep pushing the call, getting it out to more people. Next week, I already put the topics ahead of time, so we got the 4 weeks in advance. So have a great week. Make sure you realize you don't have to do all of these things that we teach. These are things that have worked for us. Pick one or two or three, master them, and then you're going to get business, and your business is going to grow. Like, for example, Salah, he started, in real estate less than a year ago, maybe 2 years ago now. I don't know what it is, but
Year and a
he's
half.
young guy. How many?
Year and a half.
Year and a half. He's a young guy, only 20. He watched our YouTube videos, and he said maybe I shouldn't have, but, to be honest, maybe he should have. He went all in on one thing, which was for sale by owners. And he sold more houses his first year than some people sell in 10 years. So, take that strategy. If it works for you and it fits your personality, run with it, and you're going to get listings and you're going to get business.
Yep. Cool.
All right,
Thank
guys.
you.
Signing off.
Guys,
Awesome.
have a
Thanks,
great
guys.
day. Let's kill it.
All right. Bye.